What it do, YouTube? It has been a minute, as it always is. Every time I post one of these, I am taking a note out of. There's a YouTube couple I watch, and their name is Josh and Isi, one of the only YouTube couples I watch, and they do this thing. They used to do this thing every Thursday called Therapy Thursdays, where they had people submit their problems, situations, and wanted advice or help on it. So just like them, I'm going to first put a disclaimer out. I am not a licensed therapist, nor am I a licensed psychologist, anything like that. I just happen to be like the therapist of my friend group. Like if every friend group had if everyone in every friend group had something that set themselves apart from the rest of the group, this is kind of like my thing. We're all silly, we're all goofy, we're all creative, we're all our own little thing. But mine that sets myself apart is I like to consider myself like the friend group therapist a little bit. So what I did was I had a couple of people, or I posted on my social media, people to submit the problems, situations, anything that they wanted advice or help on. And I am going to address them here in the podcast episode. And then as I go on about them, of course, I have my notebook. So there's, I think, 5 main issues that I'll be going into. And I mean, if you relate to them, if there's stuff that, you are relating to and you feel on a daily or even reoccurring basis, feel free to pitch in. Feel free to the people on TikTok Live, feel free to let me know if you have any issues or situations you're going through that you would like advice or help on. And that's what I'm here to do. And of course, every time I do have my podcast, I always have to have my wine with me. So today I have Z Alexander Brown Cabernet Sauvignon. I am a lover of red wines. This one is barrel aged, 3 months aged in a old smoky whiskey barrel, which I love. For some reason, the Cabernet usually comes out smoother and much tastier when it's barrel aged. So that is what I will be sipping on throughout the podcast. So let's go ahead and pour that. All right. A little cheers, toast to my newest episode in a while, and let's get into it. I wanted to film this on Wednesday, which is yesterday, and post it today, since Therapy Thursday, and most people will be watching the YouTube video on Thursday. However, not a lot of people were responding immediately when I posted it yesterday, so I just gave it an extra time. So I'm actually filming it on Thursday for Therapy Thursday, but I will be posting it tomorrow, which is Friday, and that's when most people will see it. So, like I said, I have my notebook, and I'm going to go ahead and get into it without further ado. So, on today's Therapy Thursday, the first of my 5 main things that I want to talk about, someone said how to get better at time management and juggling things in life. So, this is one of those things that varies from person to person, because the amount of things that you have going on in your life obviously won't be the exact same amount someone else has. Some people have kids, some people don't. Some people have jobs, some people don't. Some people have multiple jobs, and just everyone has their own workload that they have. The thing about juggling things in life is I think that people need to look at it from a perspective of literal juggling. When someone starts out juggling, I don't know if you're in the circus, you do it for a hobby, whatever, if it's your job, but when you start off juggling, you don't naturally juggle like 8-9 things at a time when you first start out. Like the first time you pick up 8-9 objects, you're not going to be able to juggle all of them immediately. So I think you got to look at life like that, especially with people that go into adulthood, from their teenage years. A lot of people go through life as a kid, teenage years, high school, and as soon as they hit 18, they get thrown out in the world, right? And they didn't have a job in high school, didn't do certain things, didn't have certain responsibilities, and it's almost like if you were never prepared to juggle things before getting thrown out into the real world where you have to juggle everything as an adult, you're definitely going to fail a lot starting out. And just know that that is perfectly fine and perfectly normal, actually, especially when you live in an economy that's not as easy as it used to be. That's a whole nother spiel you can go into. But the thing is, like I said, when you first start out juggling, you're not going to be able to juggle 8, 9 things at one time. The best thing to do is start off with 2. And then when you get to 2, you move on to 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. If you're having a hard time juggling things in life, it's probably because you have too many things on your plate. You didn't learn how to juggle 3 before you skipped to 5. You didn't learn how to juggle 4 before you skipped to 7. So, doing those things is hard when you just jump into it, when you have no practice, when you didn't learn how to crawl before you ran. And it's easier said than done, because a lot of times the people who are having struggle juggling things, they can't go back. Like, you can't get rid of a ball, or you can't get rid of an object that you're juggling. You have to learn how to figure out how to do things. And one thing I want to say, which will tie into something later on, is that don't be afraid to drop the ball sometimes, because it's going to happen. Even professionals that have been doing it for years, someone who's been juggling for 15 years and continues to juggle until the day they die will never not, they won't never drop a ball again. It's not never going to happen, because we're not robots. We're not perfect beings. It happens. So dropping the ball is something that's going to happen quite often, and it probably will happen quite a lot. The more you juggle, the more you live, the more you add things to your plate, you're going to drop the ball sometimes. The only thing is, you have to know that just because you dropped it doesn't mean you can't pick back up and start again. Sometimes it might be easier to set a couple things aside, learn how to juggle, learn how to find your balance when juggling a certain amount, and then add that back in when you find your comfort within the things that you're currently juggling. And being able to find that balance, to find that minimum, will be able to help you progress. So sometimes you just need to set things down and pick it back up once you find that comfort in the things that you are able to handle. And yeah, growth happens outside of the comfort zone. But at the same time, if you push yourself too hard, too fast, and you refuse to let yourself take a step back, then you're going to stay in a position to where you're constantly overwhelmed and you're constantly unable to do the things that you need to do. Because, think about it. If the difficulty levels are easy, medium, hard, and expert, if you just jump into expert and never get the basics down, 9 times out of 10, you're probably never going to get good at expert. You're probably just going to sit there frustrated, constantly defeating yourself and beating yourself up because you feel like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Well, if you didn't learn the basics, or if you didn't learn how to do things at a base level, build a foundation, like in most things in life, then everything else is going to fall apart. So you got to learn how to do the minimum first, and then start building upon that. And like I said, if you're in a position to where you're not able to put things down, or you're not able to set things aside, ask for help. Ask for an extra hand, and maybe have someone that has been juggling these things, has been doing this type of stuff, show you maybe some ropes or how to do that. Because a lot of people are afraid to ask for help or ask for advice. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wanting to grow and wanting to get better. So it's just like, would you rather stay ignorant or ask a stupid question so you're not ignorant anymore? Same concept. So that's, just one of those things where you have to play it to your strengths and figure out what you're able to do and what you're able to manage. Number 2 on my list, I like this one because I go through this one a lot too. So someone said that they're mad at themselves for wanting to try everything, but also being too scared of failing to even get started. The thing about that is, fear of failing will keep you from starting, but you have to fail in order to get better at something. You have to. There are geniuses, there are prodigies, there are people with immeasurable amounts of talent. However, not one of those people that become great, not one of those people that, stake their name in history, were absolutely perfect. None of those people never made a mistake or didn't fall short of something. One of the popular things that are used is Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team. He didn't make his high school team, and yet he's considered the greatest basketball player of all time. People go through their ups and downs because that's what life entails. In one of my previous podcasts, I say life is a roller coaster. If it doesn't have ups or downs, then it's just a straight shot, and it's not a ride, because life is a ride. It's gonna take you on a ride for sure. But failing is also, at the same time, you have to understand that when you do fail, it's not a sign of your inadequacies. It's more so of a measurement of your growth. Because, like I said, everyone's at different levels at different things. So when you do fail, you're going to see where your limit is at. Now, that limit is not to say that this is where your growth ends, because growth is just that. You're able to continue growing. It's a consistent process. So if you take that failing as, oh, that's the furthest I can go, and then just give up, that's the true failure, is giving up. But your failures are meant to be lessons that you take into consideration. You learn from them, and then you add on to them, or you grow from them. If you just take everything that you fail at and just be like, all right, well, I tried, it's not my thing, then obviously you'll never grow in that field. People push through those boundaries and those limits because they either have a passion for it, or they understand that moment is not to keep them from reaching their potential. It's to help them grow to that potential. You see what I'm saying? So when you start something, even though you're afraid of what might happen, if you let what could happen keep you from doing things, you will never find out what will happen. Never find out what will happen, because every success story you ever see had an obstacle at some point in time, had an obstacle that could have made many other people either doubt themselves or quit right then and there. If you learn how to push through said obstacle, and you learn how to keep yourself intact and understand that that is not the end game for you, there's a very, very huge opportunity for you to grow and to get better at whatever you're doing. That first step is the hardest step, and that's for everything. That's not just for activities or hobbies. That's just everything in life. The first step to getting better at something is usually the hardest step, because it either requires discipline that you don't currently have. It requires courage that you have to put your entire being into muster, or it requires doing something that you've never done before, or something that makes you uncomfortable. And the strength to push through and to complete that first step is the hardest yet most fulfilling thing to do, because once you do it and you see improvement, or you see that maybe I can make something out of this, it'll spark something else within you. And the trick of doing those things is to continue to have the strength to progress. Because like I said, even if you make it through that first obstacle and you get that rush of euphoria, you're like, yes, like I can really do this. I can continue. There's going to be more obstacles that stand in your way. Trust me, it happens with everything that I do. Every creative outlet that I have has had more than one obstacle. It's never only been one obstacle, unless it's a short-term project. But I'm talking about the things that you want to do in life. I'm talking about your passions, the things that you want to ingrain in your everyday process. These things are going to have obstacle after obstacle, because it's a part of your life. And just like I said with life has ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. There's not one, there's many. And there could be countless of them. So when it comes to doing those things and to, getting better at things, the first step. Just make it to that first step. And what's crazy is, even if the people around you egg you on, and I know this is kind of a flip than what I've just said in the past, 5 to 10 minutes, but even if the people push you to egg you on to keep doing this, to strive for it, if you do find out that it's something that isn't really your style or isn't really a fit for you, don't be afraid to let it go. However, I think that everything requires a second chance. So I think that if you try something the first time and it either is a bad experience or it doesn't go your way, please try it one more time. Just one more time. And don't half-ass it. Don't, put minimal energy into it. I want you to really try. And if you do that, your second experience might be something different. Big example, I work at a place called Young Chefs Academy. It's where we teach kids how to cook. And there was a kid that came in, and he had one of our teachers, and there was just a miscommunication, a little bit of, exchange, and the kid found himself not wanting to come back. It was his first day. And he didn't want to come back. He was extremely sad, upset at what the teacher had said to him. And the owner of the building came to me and said, "Hey, I want you to talk to him. I want you to see if you can get him to please come back again." So, and what's crazy is he was only 7, but his ability to understand what I was saying and what I was teaching him, honestly, it felt good. I just basically sat him down and I told him, "Hey, I understand that you had a bad experience. I understand that you don't want to come back right now, and that's totally fine. However, in life, you're going to run into things that don't go your way. You're going to run into things that give you a certain impression or make you feel a certain type of way. And sometimes it is just a bad first impression. It is a miscommunication. It is an accident, something that happened that this could be a good thing and this could be something that you want, but just because of that one thing that went wrong, it's going to deter you from, wanting to do it again. If that happens and it's something that you wanted to do in the first place, please just give it one more try, and do that with everything in life." And I spoke to this kid for about 10, 15 minutes, and eventually, he still looked sad. He still looked like he didn't want to come back. And I was like, "Hey, so you're coming back, right?" And he just gave me a little head nod, didn't, say anything, but he kept eye contact. And I was like, "You sure?" And then he was like, nodded his head. And I was like, "All right." And I was like, "We're going to have fun. We're going to do this, that, and the third." So he comes back in my class the next time. And when I tell you, he had the time of his life. And I've been teaching him ever since in the same classes. I've been his teacher consistently from now on. And we just have a blast. He has an amazing time. He enjoys being there. He enjoys, being in the kitchen with me, making the food. He enjoys talking and conversing with the other kids. And it's just a testament to show that sometimes things will not go your way the first time, but that doesn't mean that it can't be something that's beneficial for you. So I don't think that anyone should ever give up on the first inconvenience. You should, at least push through, think about it from an outside perspective, and just, continue to do the things that, make you happy. And even the things that make you happy can frustrate you. Like me, I love basketball. Basketball saved my life at one point. It's basically my first love. And that sport be frustrating the ever-loving out of me, especially some of the people that be playing. And I've had moments where I didn't want to play basketball no more because other people and their ignorance were making it just something I did not want to deal with. However, I am mature and smart enough to know that just because other people want to act a fool and other people want to make things harder and more difficult than it has to be, I know that the sport is much more than that. I know that what it means to me is much bigger than that. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to still keep going to the gym. I'm going to still, hoop, even though like some people like to do the most. But at the end of the day, I know what basketball does for me. And I know that it's somewhere where I can let go and be me and be free and do whatever I need to. You know what I'm saying? So that first time inconvenience, push through it. push through it, try new things, be bold, and you never know. It might turn into something that you absolutely love. Ha! So this next one, I love it because I have had so many issues with this same topic, this same thing in conversation. So my third thing that's on my list: what should I do if I don't like my partner's parents? This one is a juicy one, and I kind of didn't rush through the first two, but I kept it short and sweet. But this one I want to get into because this is a deep dive, and this has a lot of situational things about this. Because I mean, there's so many variables. You got how you are in a relationship. You got your dynamic with your significant other. You got what is it that is causing a rift between you and your significant other's parents? Is it you? Is it them? Is it mutual? Is it toxic? Is it something that like happened and was a misunderstanding that never got cleared up? So let's get into it. A little bit of background. I'm not gonna lie. I've only been in 3 relationships, right? I've never been in a relationship where my mom absolutely like adored, loved, or got along with the significant other, right? And what's crazy is the last girlfriend I had, things ended extremely horribly between them. Yet, just to give my mom a little hell, she was the one that basically like set us up together. And even to this day, she expresses that she feels like it's halfway her fault that the things that happened between me and my ex happened, and the things that I went through and the things that happened because of it. She feels absolutely horrible. The last time we talked about it, she expressed it again, how horrible she felt. And it's not her fault, even though I do kind of mess with her on that. It's all in the decisions of 2 consenting adults, which was me and my ex, and the things that I had to learn from that relationship and from those things that happened. Some of my family members hate that it happened, but I think it needed to happen for me to grow and to mature into knowing what I need and what I want from a relationship. Now, to get back on track, I've never had a significant other that my mother fully, got along with. I would say that this is a very touchy topic, especially for people who are in close relationships with their parents. It's one thing if you're on meh terms with your parents, like I don't care if you like my significant other, like they're mine, and you don't have to deal with it. It's much easier said than done when you don't have a super tight relationship. When you do, it gets a little more difficult to traverse that terrain, right? When you have a significant other and their parents don't get along with you, and I'm gonna base this off of me. How I am as a person. I'm going to put this in my own shoes. If I have a significant other and their parents don't like me, this is a territory that I'm not familiar with, because every significant other I've had, even people that I never got with but I talked to, their parents love me. Sorry. I don't know. I just get along with parents. Like I've never had an issue with other people's parents. But if I were to have that, actually, you know what? Man, scratch that. I'm going to just talk about what I did. So, when it came to me and my significant other, and we had a tough little time where there were things that I don't know if I went over it in a podcast episode. I don't think I did, but I think I've given a few details here and there throughout episodes of what happened throughout that relationship. Anyway, small things built up, led up one thing to another, and eventually it became to a point where I didn't let either my significant other or my parent talk about the other. Like, it got to a point where when I was with my mom, hanging out with my mom, I'm like, yo, don't bring her up, don't bring us up, because I feel like you're not respecting our relationship. And she actually was like, all right, bet, I won't say nothing. And it got to a point where I talked to my significant other, and I was like, look, don't let my mom's don't let my mom's name come out your mouth. I don't want to hear it. I don't want you to talk about her. I don't want to hear it. And she was like, okay, bet. It got to that point where I had to tell each other, do not talk about the other, because I was tired of doing it. The thing is, when you're in a relationship, the main focus that you should have is maintaining and progressing your relationship with your significant other, especially if you're like me, who, if you're in a relationship, you aim to marry, or if you're already married. That's even more so a factor to make sure that you are like this with your significant other. Because the thing is, yes, that's always going to be your mom, your dad, that's always going to be your parents. But the thing is, if you're like me, who values a Christian relationship, who wants to have a holy matrimony under God and following your vows and the rules and the regulations that come with marriage, your spouse is your number one concern when it comes to humans that live on this planet. And strike me down if it, like, you can strike me down if you don't agree with me, or try to. You can't strike me down. But that should be above your kids, above your parents, above your other family members. That is how a marriage is supposed to work. That is how it's supposed to be. When you are in a relationship and your significant other does not get along, or you don't get along with your significant other's parents, you have to gauge it on not only how your significant other reacts to those situations, but also what the parents are doing. If all they're doing is throwing side shots, if they're just talking, if it's all talk and it's just a weird energy when you're around them, just don't go around them. Just don't go around them. I mean, yes, there's going to be functions where family are going to have to be together. There's going to be moments where you are going to be in the same room with your in-laws, same environment, and you can't control what other people do. You cannot control what those parents decide to do. You can't control what they decide to say. You can't control anything about what's going on with them. What you can control is how you react to their antics. And what you can control is what you're putting up with your significant other's responses to those actions. Because it's one thing if their parents are doing this, that, and the third, and you come to your significant other, you're like, hey, babe, this is uncomfortable. I feel like they're gunning it out for me, and you're not lifting a finger. You're not doing anything to, put some respect on our relationship and to show them that we're serious. And if that significant other says, well, you're going to have to deal with it, like, it's my parents, like, blah, 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 and they're not showing any initiative, then that goes to show that you see where their mental lies. You see where their priority lies with which relationships they want to, I guess, uphold, and they want to keep tight. So my thing is, if you are in a bad space with your partner's significant other, and your partner is not putting in any effort to either mitigate or to minimize the tension and energy that happens between those parties, then you might need to move on from your significant other. It might be a more so of their problem. And that's just my thing, because if you really care about your partner, you're going to speak up against anyone. Like, you don't have to be disrespectful to your parents if you're going to speak up. But just like I said, with my mom, I wasn't disrespectful to her, but I just basically said, hey, Mom, look, honestly, please just don't bring her up. Don't talk about it, because I feel like you're not respecting my relationship the way I want you to. And she respected that. And I told her respectfully how that's exactly how I worded it. And she was like, you know what? Okay, son, I'm going to back off. I won't bring it up no more. I won't say nothing. I'm going to just let you do you. Thanks, Ma. Now, yes, a lot of the things that she mentioned did end up, being true or coming to light, but that's besides the point. The thing is, you have to be comfortable in your own relationship. Like I said, it doesn't matter what anyone says, not even their parents, because at the end of the day, the relationship isn't between you and their parents. It's between you and your significant other. And yeah, parents are always gonna, won't always be there, but their opinions, as long as they're alive and kicking and around your partner and their child, those things are going to be there. They're going to speak things to their child. They're going to say things, and hopefully they won't do things. But some people are crazy. You just have to have a partner that's able to adhere to your feelings, understand the situation, and be able to handle that. And that goes with both sides. Like, not just like the men should definitely be able to handle that, but women too. If it's the woman's mother or father that's like, out of pocket, she's got to be able to come to her parents and respectfully tell them that, like, yo, you're doing too much. And, that's that. As long as your relationship with your significant other is healthy and beneficial for both of you, there should be no reason why you cannot come to your parents and be like, yo, like, chill out, like, please, because you're doing the most and you keeping me and my significant other from having the proper mental space that we should be in our relationship, especially if you're married. Now, if the parents are physically doing things, that comes to a whole nother ball game, because there are stories out there where parents go the extra mile. And when I say the extra mile, I mean they be doing the most. If you feel like your life, health, or even the life or health of your significant other are in jeopardy because of what their parents are doing, bump that. You might need to really get out of there, because at the end of especially if you're not married, because at the end of the day, you still want to live. Like, you still want to make sure that you're all right at the end of the day. And like I said, this is an extreme case. So I hope that no one has to think about what to do in this situation, because it's a horrible situation. But if it gets to that, that's going to be where you have to kind of maneuver off and maybe find someone whose parents aren't psychotic. But I'm just talking about the generic, like, mom, dad, they be salty, throwing shots, they be acting a fool and just throwing weird energy. Energy you can deal with. Words you can deal with. Even little petty movements you can deal with, as long as your significant other respects your, like, each other's space and what you're trying to build. So that is that's a big one, and that's something that I related to a lot, for sure. Number 4, also a big one I wanted to get into. Someone said, do you have any dating advice for someone dating in their 20s? This one's going to come with a lot of experience, as I hate to say it. As someone nearing the end of their 20s, and someone who's attempted to and dated throughout their 20s, what's crazy is, even though I'm not even, I'm not 30 yet, but I've spent more years single in my 20s than I've spent dating. 27... Yeah, I spent like under 3 years dating, and I've been single for the other 4.5 years, 4 years and some change of my 20s. So, dating advice in the 20s. Do not listen to this if you're only looking to date casually, because this is coming from someone who dates with a purpose. I don't date casually. I don't want to, I don't need to, and I think that a lot of people in their 20s, in my generation, I should say, a lot of people that are close to my age, between the ages of like 23 to 27, 28, a lot of these people were taught very differently from the generation before us. Dating casually has become something that is almost strived for, and it's ruined the dating pool. It's ruined it, and it's honestly, it's not something that should be going on throughout your entire 20s. And you're going to hear people disagree with me. A lot of people will probably disagree with me. Even older people will probably disagree with me. They're like, oh, your 20s, you're young, you should date around, you should do this. There's a difference between dating around and casually dating. Dating around, to me, the proper way of doing it is going on dates, meeting people, getting to know them. The dating casually thing, getting into relationships when you're not really that serious about the person, or getting into relationships quickly, rushing into them. Oh, I'm going to be your significant other just because you're attractive and it's on a whim. That stuff is what ruins people. Casually dating throughout your 20s, especially if you didn't date a lot throughout like high school, is what ruins people, because the more that you jump into things and the more you don't give a second thought to going into these relationships with people, the more you run into experiences that ruin your outlook on relationships and on other people. Because right now there's a very sick trend of men versus women. And what's sad is I won't say sad. What's funny is I've done a podcast of like men versus women things, but it was mostly like just what the other misunderstands about the other, or what the mindset of a man is versus what women think the mindset of a man is, or just, stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, this is why women ain't nothing, this is why men ain't nothing. No, it wasn't nothing like that. But that's that's social media. Is saturated with that kind of content. Just what people are taking in is toxic to the mentality of people that want to be in meaningful relationships, and it's tearing people apart. It's absolutely tearing people apart. And then you got people that can't find a proper, successful relationship, can't be in one, can't keep a significant other. You have them trying to teach people on what they should and shouldn't have when it comes to relationship. And also, a lot of people like to take out of context that things are not what they used to be. One of the things that pops up is the whole 50-50 argument, right? So the whole, oh, my grandparents didn't have to go 50-50, this, that, and the third. Well, your grandparents and parents didn't have the economy that we have today. They didn't have the setup that we have. Is not anywhere close to what our parents, especially grandparents, had. Because grandparents, they could go to trade school, go into a factory, work 40 hours a week, and sustain for an entire family by themselves. 40 hours a week. They could do that. We can't do that with those same jobs today. I got, I know family members that are working those same type of jobs, 50 to 60 hours a week, barely able to hold their own by themselves in rundown apartments or houses. Like, it's not what it used to be. And then, you have a lot of people that go on social media talking about, oh, 50-50. If a man trying to go 50-50, I don't want him. He needs to be able to, support my whole thing and be able to support our household by himself. I don't want to have to work, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? That's fine. That's perfectly fine. If that is what you want, then I encourage you to go out and find it. However, what I don't like is that is a narrative that keeps getting pushed, that keeps getting just idolized almost by people that, didn't really agree with that in the first place. But because they see all of these women saying that, and it's a constant, like, this is what a man should be doing. This is what we shouldn't be doing. This is how it's supposed to be. This is what it's starting to become people are listening to those and saying, okay, that is how it should be, and maybe that is what I should go after, instead of knowing what you're okay with as a person, finding your own standards. Because what's crazy is, if social media didn't exist, I guarantee over half of the people that agree with those statements wouldn't have agreed with it if it wasn't for social media. I wholeheartedly believe that. Because one thing I know is that marriage is a partnership. Marriage is a big partnership. And in a partnership, you have to go, you do have to do 50-50. Now, 50-50 doesn't mean it has to be in the financial, aspect. But if it is, that means that 50% of what you're doing goes towards the household and 50% of what they're doing, or no, I said that wrong. What you're doing for the household is 50% of the work, and what they're doing for the household is 50% of the work. So whether that's he makes all the money and she does all the housework, or he makes half the money and does half the housework, and she makes half the money and does half the housework, whatever that constitutes, whatever floats your boat. Because my thing is, the things that I see fail are the situations where someone's doing everything and another person is doing bare minimum, or what they think is, what they should be doing. What's up, Julian? What's good? And that's my issue, is the fact that people don't break that down for themselves. People don't take a look inward and say, hey, what is it that would make me happy? What is it that I could be okay with? What is it that would make me feel like my significant other is really trying to make this work? And the fact that people aren't looking within themselves and figuring that out, and they go to social media for the answers, it ruins it. It ruins not only their own perspective, but it also starts to ruin what they're looking for in a relationship. And then you have a lot of these women and even men that are looking for very unrealistic expectations, unrealistic standards. Because at the same time, no one should be shamed for their standards, but there is a point where your list of standards starts to lose that sense of reality. That sense of everyone has a list. Everyone has the things that they want on that list and the things that they want their partner to encompass. But the longer the list, the harder it becomes to find someone who fits that criteria. And when it becomes that hard, don't be surprised if you can't find it. Don't be surprised if you can't find it. And then the general statements, the general, shots at men or women, it starts to become old and it starts to become bitter. And then, like I said, it bleeds on to younger generations. There's way too many people that I've talked to that have standards that are just way beyond what people were talking about when they were that age in my generation. Like, I can talk to a 19, 20-year-old right now and ask them, hey, what are you looking for in a man? And they want someone with a compliment. They want someone that is the same age, 20, 21, 22, with the accomplishments of that someone 10 years older would have. They want that. And I'm like, well, that's not realistic, right? That's not what you want is not something that is going to, it's not something that's going to manifest easily, often, or even sparingly. It's not. And then now you have people that are sitting here like, oh, I can't find this, I can't find that, I can't find a good. No, you just can't find someone to the unrealistic standards that you formed because of what some random lady on the internet said, or maybe what some of your friends have told you. Just wanted to pop in and give you support. I hope the life goes well. Appreciate that, Julian. Appreciate that, man. Much love. But yeah. So outside of the standards, something that I've related to very recently, you should always strive to be with someone who is your mutual option. And when I say that, I mean that everyone has people that they want. Unless you're asexual and you don't care about relationships, but there's always going to be someone that has your eye. There's always going to be someone that you're looking for Um, especially if you are a young adult. Um, you know, of course, as a young adult, our hormones are on go all the time. It's natural, that attraction is natural to handsome slash beautiful slash, just good energy, good vibes. We're naturally attracted to that as human beings. There's going to be people that catch your eye. I think that in order for a relationship to properly work, I think that your number one option needs to see you as the same. I think that when you see each other as each other's either only or main option, that is what works. Because a lot of the times, and I've gone through this as well, I've only had one relationship where I got with the number one option that I wanted, and I was also their number one option. And that was my high school relationship. And of course, it ended because, graduated, moved, long distance, didn't work. Both of my other relationships, not saying that like I had multiple other options or, I was, out here running the streets, because I wasn't. I really wasn't. But my second girlfriend, I would say that she was my first option, but I was not the main, or I would say I wasn't a main option for her. She got really talked into going out with me. And I mean, at the end of the relationship, after I broke it off, she saw the value in me and saw that like how good of a person I was and how valuable I was as a, significant other. However, that, it just didn't translate to the relationship. Also, there was a lot more reasons why that didn't work out. That's for a whole nother story. But the third relationship, honestly, it was low key the same way. It wasn't. She wasn't my first option. Because I think before I had gotten into my third relationship, the one option I wanted did me dirty, like a few months before. Yeah, it happened. Now, I did not let that affect how I treated her and how I respected her in the relationship. Not at all. Because I consider myself mature enough to separate those things. However, I just think that there's something about saying your one option and being like, I want that, and that being reciprocated does something else to a relationship. Because yeah, we were high school sweethearts, and it didn't end up going that way because long distance, and she wanted to break it off and everything. There was something that when I look back on that relationship where it was almost like I didn't have to force anything. I didn't have to fake anything. Yeah, we had our ups and downs. We almost broke up I say twice. We almost broke up twice during it. But the fact that we were both had a level of maturity that was beyond our years, we were able to work through it. And by the time that I ended up moving down to Georgia from Virginia, we were on amazing terms. And I mean, there was still a little bit of immaturity, even on both ends, towards the end of the relationship that kind of showed their colors. But I mean, we were 17, 18, so, obviously there's going to be a little bit of immaturity there. But it's just a sense of there's an energy about having mutual number one options come together that do something else for a relationship. And I think that if you're constantly going after number one options when you're a number three option or number four option, it leads to a lot of heartache and it leads to a lot of headache. And something that you just don't need to or want to deal with. That's also a reason why I don't think casual dating is very healthy for relationships anyway, because people that say that, you have plenty of years, you're young, you have time. Well, guess what? If you spend all that time in your 20s casually dating, jumping into relationships with people that are either toxic or not good for you or both, and you constantly get hurt, then what you're doing is you're basically adding baggage to your own mental and spiritual capacity, to the point where once you find someone that you should be with or are meant to be with, you have issues that you have to work through that you never would have had to do that in the first place if you just would have slowed down and paid attention. Just slow down and pay attention. Be picky. Be picky. And what's crazy is my mom, she told me years ago, like I think I was like 19, 20, trying to find a girlfriend, or I wouldn't say trying to find a girlfriend, but I was wanting a girlfriend, and, there was this girl and that girl, and I was just saying like, oh, but this, but that, but that. And then my mom was like, you so picky. Just date around, see what you like. And you know what? I'm glad I was picky. I'm very glad I was picky, because the things I've seen and the things that came to light from some of the other girls that I maybe would have given a chance if I was just like, all right, let me just try it out. It saved me from quite a bit. Not gonna lie, honestly, it did. It saved me from a lot of headache, and I'm glad I was picky from the get-go. But yeah, just, like I said, the whole casual dating, especially the casual sex. Let's talk about that, bro. The whole sexual freedom thing, like, I know that there's been like a whole movement where women were advocating for sexual like freedoms and the lack of discernment, or not discernment, the lack of I say the lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically not being looked down upon by the male society. But I think that it's just as bad on the male side as well. I think that sexual freedom and constantly sleeping and, moving around with multiple people, I think that has the same effect as the casual dating thing. If anything, I think it's worse. Casual dating, that stuff will mess up your mental, mostly. Your mental. The casual sex, that starts to mess with your soul. That starts to mess with more things, because having sex is like, the joining of souls in a physical union. That's why when you get married, you're not officially married in God's eyes until you consummate the marriage, which, if you don't know what that means, that is having sex. That is meant to be the physical embodiment of joining in holy matrimony. That's what it is. And that's why among married couples, when you're married, even God wants you to have sex often and frequently, because it's a great thing. When you're constantly giving to multiple people, and I'm guilty of said thing as well, it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well, and it also does things to your own psyche that I won't say is irreversible, but it starts to put a certain filter on how you see things. It starts to make you question the validity of being in relationships, and starts to make you question what do I need certain things for. And it starts off of like, why do I need to be with, someone when I have all these options? Why do I need to go through the stress of having a significant other and have to worry about someone else's feelings when I can do X, Y, and Z with A, B, and C? You know what I'm saying? And then once that initial high goes by, especially with people that have definitely been through some stuff, then you start to get to a point where it's like you're feeling empty, and you have all of these moments where you can do this and that and the third with these people, but where is the meaning? Where's the connection? Where is, just the ability to really be yourself and to let it all go? Because as much as people try to be hard, as much as people try to have on that outer shell and, keep that tough facade, being able to strip down and be vulnerable, raw, just exposed, to someone that you trust and someone that has your best interests sexually, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, like, in their hands to be that way, is a wonderful feeling. It is a wonderful feeling, especially when they treat that power with care. Because yes, there are some people that abuse that power. Some people that use that power to manipulate. Some people that use that power for their own personal gain. But when you have people that you can trust, that really show you that they're worth putting that into, that is what it's all about. Because there's no happier feeling than having someone that you know is in your corner, has your back, and has your best interest at heart no matter what. And, what I just said, maybe some people will say, well, people put on facades. People hide their true colors. People don't show you who they really are until it's too late. And in some cases that is true, but you have to understand that some of y'all just be moving way too fast. Some of y'all don't understand what it means to take your time. For me personally, I don't care if I'm head over heels for a girl. I don't care if you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm not getting into a relationship with you till we've been talking for a minute. And when I say a minute, I'm not talking like, oh, we have to be like, talking for like a whole year before I claim you to be mine. But it's going on at least 4 or 5 months, at least. Because my thing is, you can put on a face for a month. You can put on a fake act for a couple of months. You sure can, especially when you're not spending all day every day with that person. The texts, calls, just, every now and then interactions, it's so easy. And also, I mean, as an actor, I would never abuse my talents or skills, but some people aren't actors. And they be putting on Oscar performances. And that's just how it is. They'll become someone completely different just to get a piece of you. And all they want is that piece. They don't want the whole pie. They just want, I'm going to take that and then go on about their business. And what's funny is this has come up on podcasts, and this is not to be confused. There are some people who genuinely do want to get to know you, want to go there with you. And after reaching a certain point, they may realize that you're not the one for them. And sometimes that leads to people being ghosted. First of all, I don't believe in ghosting. I think that if you're showing someone true intentions and their intentions are to be true with you, I think that the least that you owe them is a reason why you don't want to mess with them no more. That's just me personally. Some people don't see it that way. I think ghosting is immature. If you both are in a space where you're seriously trying to see what each other is about and you're actually dating to see like what's up, ghosting is a very immature thing to do. But it happens. And sometimes that might be the case. But more often than not, you have people that are after one thing and one thing only. And the one thing that people need to learn how to do, both men and women need to learn how to do, is take your freaking time. Stop rushing into things. Just because you see that shiny little rock, don't just go, oh, I want to buy that. Oh, I want to buy that. You thought you was buying diamond. You bought quartz. Like they look the same until you put them under a microscope. And you didn't want to take the time to let the jeweler do his job. And the jeweler, in this sense, is being you. No, my life detected inactivity during your current life. How? And able to verify. Hold on, this thing tripping. Is it lack of activity due to because I'm not moving and doing something? Oh, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, you're not taking that time to look things under a microscope. You're not taking your time to really get to know the person. And I'm not saying you have to know their entire life story, that you have to know every detail about their past, present, what they want for their future, in order to get into a relationship with them. But y'all aren't stupid. People aren't stupid. If you're dating with intentions to marry, more than likely you know what to look for. And you also know what flags you're seeing. And a lot of people like to ignore said flags. Me personally, Okay. So I know this was on the whole topic of advice for dating in your 20s. This right here is very great advice right here. There were flags that I seen dating in my early 20s. And there's also getting to know them spiritually, because that has a huge effect. Oh, of course. Spiritually is a big thing, especially, like I said, if you're like me, who wants a strong Christian, God-founded relationship and marriage. That is a big thing. What was I saying? But yeah, there is a thing where I'm dating in my 20s. There were flags that I had seen, and the flags that I saw and picked up on were stuff that I had to sit there and say, hey, could I deal with this? Or, hey, maybe this isn't that big of a deal. So I would say the best thing to do is, whenever you hear something, feel something, get an inkling of something that goes, huh, don't ignore that. Do not ignore it. Do not downplay it. Do not treat it for what it is. Because you don't want to self-sabotage, because certain things can be worked on. Certain things can be improved upon. They can be talked about, especially if the person you're talking to is mature and they understand that some things won't be to your liking, because, I mean, that is the case. Every person is unique. Every person has their own thing. Intuition, exactly. Every person has their own, just their own ways of living their life. And your significant other will not, let me repeat, will not be just like you. There will be a difference somewhere. There will always be a difference somewhere. It would be boring if there were no differences whatsoever. It might actually drive you insane if that was the case. But you have to know, you have to really break down who you're talking to and what they're communicating with you. And if you have a moment where it makes you go, huh, confide in someone. Confide in someone. Find someone that you can trust would have not even your best interest at heart. Someone that you can trust to be unbiased, right? Because I'll tell you right now, if my friend comes to me and asks me a question and says, hey, I need your advice on what this is and what I'm feeling and what this looks like to you, I'll tell them straight up. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't beat around the bush. I won't tell them what I know they want to hear. I'm going to tell them exactly how it is. And then I'm going to break down certain things of what it could be. So it's like, hey, I've been talking to this girl, and usually she texts back all the time. And this past weekend, I don't know, she's just been absent. She's just been distant. She's been one wording me, blah blah blah. Most people will be like, oh yeah, she ain't feeling you. She ain't doing this. She ain't doing that. Me personally, I would be like, have you asked her if there's anything going on? Have you, do you know about what's been going on this weekend? Have you noticed anything beforehand? If they say no to all those things, then I would say you need to try your best to figure it out, or just give it time. Because if they've been texting back consistently for 3 weeks and they go one weekend without doing it, yeah, a lot of people might, start to get in their heads. And I've been guilty of said thing too. So, it happens to everyone. However, it would be unfair to just jump to conclusions or to make it seem like, oh, this is what they're doing when you don't know. So a simple question, be like, hey, just noticed that, you were a little distant this weekend. Everything good? Are you all right? Did something happen? And my thing is, some people will be afraid and say, oh, that sounds clingy. That sounds needy. That sounds pushy. You know what? I used to agree. Bump that, bro. If you are in a space where you're trying to talk to someone seriously, then you let that out. Because not only does that let them know what type of energy you have and what type of time you're on, that you are that person to check up on them, to ask if anything's up, if they notice a difference in pattern, but it also will show you, depending on their response, if they're the type to accept the type of energy that you have, right? because we all sometimes get afraid of how they're going to react to this, how they're going to react to that part of you. And guess what? If that is how you deal with things, as long as it's not in a toxic way and you actually showing true concern and you just really want to know, not on some, oh, I think they're, stepping out type stuff, but like, I just want to make sure they're okay, and they don't like that, then they're not the person for you. Then they're not going to be able to handle your constant wanting to make sure that they're in a good space, because they may take it as, oh, you're you're getting in your head, or you're trying to accuse me of something. No, I just want to make sure you're okay, because for 3 weeks you've been texting me nonstop all the time, and then for 3 days out of the blue you just kind of go ghost, and I just want to make sure you're good. And if they see that as a negative thing, then that just goes to show you that your level of care for them is uncomfortable to that person. And if it's uncomfortable to them now, what's going to happen when you're in a relationship? It's going to be amped up times 10. And that's what people need to realize, is that those things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one or the other is a bad person or they're bad at relationships. It's just that it means that you're not a fit for each other. You're not. And that example right there is a big tall tale sign of why you need to take your time, and why you need to don't hold back. Like, don't hold back. Now, some of you might be crazy. Some of you might need some help, might be doing too much. And the person you're talking to might tell you, or someone that you confide in might be like, hey, yo, yeah, you tripping a little bit. And you know what? That's, I don't want to say that's okay, but don't be discouraged if something like that happens. That just means that you just have some things to work on. And just understand that you're not perfect either. You're a human being. You have things that, I wouldn't call it an issue, but you have things that you might need to work on due to things from your previous relationships, or from, growing up and things that you experienced with family. It just might be like that. And it is okay if that is the case. But, oh, wow. Yeah, I've been on this for an hour. I do want to start wrapping this up, but just a lot of those things. So, dating in your 20s, take your time, don't rush into anything, and follow your own heart and mind and what you feel you need to do for a relationship. Please, I beg of you, if you're going to go to someone, go to friends and family you trust. Do not go to social media. Do not. That is a setup for failure every single time. Yes, there's those black sheep that put out content that are healthy for relationships and for people. I'd like to consider myself part of that. But the stuff that gets put on mainstream, the stuff that blows up, the stuff that really gets viral on people's screens, they're not that type of content. And you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You're not stupid. Everyone sees it all the time. And it's getting to a toxic, it's getting to, there's a reason why they call social media scrolling brain rot. It's a reason why, because that stuff really starts to get to a space where it's not something that people should be taking to heart. It's not. So yeah, take your time. Don't go to social media. Do your best to find people that could give you unbiased advice. Either that or get a therapist if you need to. And then I would also say treat everyone with a clean slate. Please treat everyone with a clean slate. And what I mean by that is everyone has their things that they went through. Everyone has their moments. Everyone has experiences. And yes, those experiences help shape your level of thinking, your maturity. It helps you to navigate the world better. However, the thing is, if you constantly allow your past experiences to affect the way you treat other people, don't be afraid when those people walk away. Because I'm not your ex. I'm not your little friend that you had a falling out with. I'm not that same person. And people don't watch. I'll say this. There are tendencies, there are signs, and there are habits. Pay attention to those. However, allowing yourself to treat someone off rip, or allowing yourself to move a certain way with someone off rip because of what could happen, what has happened, and what might happen, will ruin your relationships. It will ruin the chances you have with other people, because those moments that you get too into your head is when things start to fall apart. And if you notice signs, habits, these things that might like throw off a flag, ask questions. And what's crazy is I wouldn't distance yourself. Ask questions. Get in there. Be like, hey, I just noticed this. Like, is this a thing? Blah, blah, blah. And guess what? If they try to make it something else, if they try to blow it up and be like, why you asking? Why you being nosy? Blah, blah, blah. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Because if it brought your attention enough to want to ask about it and to care enough to get to whatever it is, and they treat it like that, once again, what do you think is going to happen in the relationship? It's going to happen just like that as well. Instead, it's going to be bigger problems with bigger consequences, with bigger outbursts. And now people are in a position where they're heartbroken, they're depressed, they're in a predicament where they're like, why am I here? You know why? Because you didn't read the signs, you didn't open your mouth, and you didn't allow the person to see 100% you. Do not hold back. So those are my advice for people dating in their 20s. Last one I want to get into is giving into unnecessary desires. That's never not going to happen. Survival and things that you need to live on this earth, in this society, in this country, you're constantly, look what I'm doing. Did I need this? No. Did I want it? Sure did. Just relax, Unnecessary desires are honestly a dual-edged sword, right? I think what this person meant by asking was maybe desires that the person doesn't need in their life, and that could possibly, lead to unwanted consequences. And I think that this is one of those things where it's also depending on the person, because everyone has their own demons, everyone has their own temptations, everyone has those things that really really bring them from the path that they want to walk. I have those same demons, I have those same struggles. A lot of people do. And the thing that I want to let people know is that having unnecessary desires is natural. It is something that will happen and continue to happen for everyone that lives on earth. Temptation is everywhere. The things that you want that aren't healthy for you are everywhere. At the end of the day, it's a balance. Take diet, for example, right? Candy isn't necessary. Treats, ice cream, shakes, desserts, cakes, they're not necessary. Will they kill you? Not if you're responsible. Not if you take it in moderation. Not if you allow yourself to be able to intake those things without hindering your health. And that's what it's all about. It's all about balance. Unnecessary desires is a thing of balance. You have to be responsible. You have to know when something is too much. You have to know when to put it down. You have to know when to distance yourself from it. If it's starting to cause something in your life to where you're either not getting things done, or you're becoming hindered in an aspect of your life, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, if you're allowing that to happen, you have to cut back, and you have to find a way to get yourself distanced from it. If it's adding value to your life, if it's making you feel happy with no other detriments to one of those other aspects of your life, then so be it. Indulge. feel free to have those unnecessary desires, those things that you don't need but you want. Feel free to do what makes you feel good, but don't do it to where it costs you something else. Because sacrificing something that is healthy for you for something that is unhealthy for you is going to deteriorate you from the inside out. It's going to cause you to regret it. It's going to cause you to find yourself in a position where you feel lost, or you just feel overstimulated. Just having something. Stay grounded is all I'm saying. Stay grounded. If you're having trouble figuring out what it is that's healthy for you, talk to other people. Confide in others. And one of the biggest things about what I talk about throughout this whole thing, if you're someone that paid attention to this live, if you're someone that paid attention to this podcast episode and really felt something deep inside, it's because that someone else is giving you information that you may not have either found on your own or that you needed to hear from an outside source. Because we as humans are not solitary creatures. We need other people around us to be able to help guide us, to be able to help put us in the right positions to do better for ourselves. And, some people, and including myself, will sit here and say, God can do that for me. Well, who got you to God? You didn't get there by yourself. You got there through other people. And that's okay, because as Christians, that's our job to help lead you, to the word, to help spread the word, to help spread the love of God, I should say. That's our main thing. I'm not one to preach to people. I'm not one to shove the Bible or verses in their face. But if it ever comes to a point of I don't know what to do, I'm lost, I will bring that up. Because, man, I've had my own experiences. I've had my own moments where I was rock bottom, and God helped me come up from those rock bottom positions. A church visit has saved me so many times, and I would say saved me spiritually and emotionally so many times. I lost count. I really did. And even if you're not religious, there's someone out there. There's someone out there you can talk to, a friend. There's countless, and here's the thing about social media, right? Social media is so toxic because the things that become popularized and viral are those things I talked about earlier, the men versus women thing, the constant, unrealistic expectations, the hate, the brain rot. But there are people out there that give content that really speak to the human soul, that really are meant to uplift and benefit their viewers. And what's crazy is all it takes is a simple search, because scrolling on your feeds, what randomly pops up, that's not going to help you unless that's what you built your feed off in the first place. But if that's not the case and you need something to help you out there and you don't have anyone to talk to, there's so many other avenues. There's so many other people on social media that put out the content that really would help you. You just have to go look for it. You have to give a little bit of energy. Just take that first step. Like I talked about earlier, it's taking that first step is always the hardest part. But just taking that extra 10 minutes to dive deep into the videos that don't have that many views, the pages that don't have that many subscribers, the people that really put what needs to be out there in order to help those that they're not hearing, they're not feeling what the mainstream media pushes out. Because what mainstream media pushes out is not good for you. It's not. And I'll be on that hill to the day I die. But yeah, I think that it really is the main theme of a lot of these things today is balance. How to get better at time management and juggling things in life. Balance. Mad at myself for wanting to try everything, but also being scared of failing. Balance as far as getting out there and doing things and knowing what makes you happy and what's good for you, and taking those mistakes and running with them and learning from them. What should I do if I don't like my partner's parents? There needs to be a balance between the energy that you give your significant other and the energy you allow to come into your personal space from their parents. Dating advice for someone in their 20s, balance, time. It's a balance of time. It's a balance of energy. It's a balance of making sure that you know what you want and what you need, and also what you can improve on yourself, because you're not perfect either. You can't go into a relationship or go into a talking stage thinking, oh, I got it figured out. I'm me. I'm not going to change. I'm perfect the way I am. No, because you got things too that you need to work on. It's all a balance. And then giving into unnecessary desires, balance. It's all about balance. But yeah, I think that pretty much summed everything up. This ended up becoming a much longer, episode, much longer talk than I expected. But I think that there was a lot of things I wanted to get off my chest, and just a lot of aspects of these topics that I wanted to share with you guys, and a lot of different situations. I think it would have been shorter if people gave me like specific situations, but because these topics were so vague, I had so much to cover and so many things to talk about. But whenever you watch this video, if you do have specific situations that either need more elaboration or maybe are outside of what we talked about today, you can feel free to comment or send me a DM, let me know, and I can address that in a future video. I think that this was a very productive and very enlightening episode. I think I was almost speaking to myself in a lot of instances, so I guess I low-key got a lot off my chest without putting any business out there. But I want to thank you guys for the people that on social media came to me with these aspects, with these issues, the people that were constantly waiting for me to put out this episode, the people that were showing support for me creating this episode as well. I will be putting it together, getting it out to you guys as soon as possible. But like I said, I can't thank you guys enough. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. I really hope that it was insightful, maybe helped some of y'all, maybe gave you a little bit more insight on, what to do in your everyday lives. And hopefully, I get more people that want this type of content. But also, I do not shy away from the fun content as well. You can go check out my other videos, my page. I think my top 5 episode is probably one of my favorite ones, only because it's just so fun and free and not so deep in the conversation. It was just one of those lighthearted, just, for the heck of it, episodes. But yeah, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm going to go ahead and log out for the night. But thank you guys for watching on my YouTube. I will see you at a later date. I refuse to make any promises because obviously, as you can tell from my previous episodes, I suck at keeping those promises with timing and getting episodes out. But I love you guys. Hope you enjoy your night, and peace out.